Good morning and welcome into Sports Talk on a Budget. It is Thursday, September 11th, year of our Lord 2025. Of course, with September 11th, we want to just remember everyone that we lost. What was that, 24 years ago on September 11th, 2001, all the families affected, anybody that was affected in that event on September 11th, want to remember them before we go ahead and dive into the show. So just wanted to hit that a little bit as well, but looking at our show today, the topics are going to be in football as they always are this time of year. We're going to start off with the NFL. I'm going to give a little bit of reaction or some of my main takeaways from the first week in the NFL. And then in the second topic, I'm actually going to move to college football. We actually have a pretty solid slate this weekend. Some big games. Going to break down 3 games, and then I'll go ahead and move on to my picks and Kody's covers in both college football and the NFL. So those are the topics for the day. But before I go ahead and dive into the topics, just want to remind you, as always, if you prefer the video version of this podcast, please go ahead and like and subscribe right down here on Sports Talk on a Budget. However, if you prefer the audio version, please go ahead and like and subscribe on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or basically wherever you get your podcasts. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the show today. So as I mentioned, we're going to start off with the NFL, and I just wanted to give a couple reactions that I had from week 1 in the NFL. My biggest reaction that I had was from that Sunday night game, and that was obviously that unbelievable comeback by the Bills to beat the Ravens in Buffalo 41-40 in that game on Sunday night. And my ultimate reaction was, I know that Patrick Mahomes has the hardware. He's got the MVPs. He's got 3 Super Bowl rings. He is the most accomplished quarterback in the NFL by far right now. But as of right now, today, September 11, 2025, and I think it's been like this for a minute as well, not just today, I think Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are the 2 best quarterbacks in the league. I think they are. They're the 2 best playmakers at quarterbacks with what they could do with their legs and their arms. They're absolute playmakers, not taking anything away from guys like, obviously, Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert looked amazing on Friday. Jalen Hurts just won a ring. Jaden Daniels looks like a guy that can come up and maybe be in the conversation with those guys as well. But as of right now, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, obviously the reigning MVPs. Lamar Jackson won it 2 years ago. Obviously, Josh Allen won it last year. So the reigning MVPs in this league showed you why they are the reigning MVPs in this league, because not only are they the 2 best quarterbacks in the league, you can make the argument, and I think it's a pretty solid argument, that they're the 2 best players in the league. And when they get on the same field together, now the Bills have kind of, at least in the last 2 games, the Ravens won the regular season matchup and lost the postseason matchup. Now the Bills have won the regular season. Wouldn't be shocked to see them play in the postseason, and wouldn't be shocked to see the Ravens beat them, because the Ravens absolutely dominated that game for 3.5 quarters. And then we had the Derrick Henry uncharacteristic fumble, and then the wheels just kind of came off for this Ravens team at that point. And Josh Allen did Josh Allen things at that point. So you got to tip your hat to Josh Allen. He took advantage of the opportunity that the Ravens afforded him with that fumble by Derrick Henry, and he ran with it. He ran with it, and they won the game. Matt Prater was signed basically like 2 days before, I think on the Friday before the game, and kicked the winning field goal and had some other field goals in the game as well. So hats off to him. Great performance there. But just my first, like I said, reaction to the last weekend is going to be, I think Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen have separated themselves. Maybe not a big separation, but have at least separated themselves as of right now as the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL as we stand here today on September 11, 2025. My other reaction to this past weekend is going to be the AFC West division is going to be absolutely brutal. Like, 3 teams got to win this weekend. The Chargers beat the Chiefs. The Raiders went into New England and beat my Patriots. And the Broncos, obviously, they got Cam Ward in his debut, but they won at home. And so the only team that has a loss is the Chiefs, who have won this division, I think, 7 years in a row. So you know they're going to contend in this division. And the quarterback play, I think, is really good. I think, obviously, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert are really good. Geno Smith looked really good against the Patriots. Bo Nix struggled. He did struggle. My questions about him that I had going into his rookie year and coming out of college were kind of silenced last year a little bit, but are coming back. He did not play well in the preseason, even in limited snaps, and he did not look good in that first game, so my question marks are there for him. But that Broncos defense is amazing. That Broncos defense is going to get after you. They're going to hit you. They're going to make plays. They're a really good defense, and I think they'll be able to help with Bo Nix and his maturity, and maybe if he doesn't have as great a year as a lot of people thought he would, that defense can carry him. So all 4 teams in this division can make the playoffs. I think the division winner kind of comes down between maybe the Chiefs and the Chargers from what I saw from the Chargers on Friday night. But these teams, I don't know if any team is going to sweep the other team in this division. I don't know if the Chiefs are just going to dominate it like they have the last few years. So I think this division is going to be tough. It is going to be brutal. And whoever comes out of this division will be battle tested, but will have some scars going into the playoffs. So second reaction from this past weekend is going to be that the AFC West is going to be absolutely brutal and one of the most fun divisions to watch throughout the year. Third and final reaction I had from week 1 in the NFL is the Packers are Super Bowl contenders. The Packers are Super Bowl contenders now. You add Micah Parsons, that defense looked great. And Micah Parsons only had 1 sack, but you saw his impact on the game. He was getting double teamed basically anytime he was in the game. That opened things up for Lucas Van Ness. That opened things up for Rashawn Gary and other guys on the defensive front to get after Jared Goff. They absolutely hammered the Detroit Lions, who have won the division the last 2 years. They put it to Detroit. The offense looks better. They still don't have their number 1 receiving threat, but they can spread it around, whether it's Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, the rookie, Romeo Dobbs, and then you have Tucker Kraft, the tight end. You still have Josh Jacobs, who I think is one of the most underrated players in the entire league as your running back. So really just kind of balanced offense. The defense has definitely gotten better on the second year with Jeff Hafley and with Micah Parsons being there as well, of course. This team, especially you get that huge win at home against against the kind of the top division foe the last few years in Detroit. I really like the direction of this team. They play tonight against the Commanders at home. That's a must-see game because I think both those teams will be contenders in the NFC and both be playoff teams. So that is a must-see game. I won't be picking that game because this may not come out until around that time. But still, that is a must-see game tonight. This Packers team, they look like they could be Super Bowl contenders, and at least after week 1, they look like the best team in the NFC. So obviously the Eagles will be there, the Commanders I think will be there, and then there's teams in the West that may contend and the Buccaneers as well I think are really good. But as of right now, the Packers are without a doubt Super Bowl contenders, and in my opinion, they looked like the best team in the NFC this past weekend. So those are my 3 main takeaways from week 1 in the NFL. Of course, it's just week 1, so don't overreact. If your team lost, though, the sky isn't falling. Yes, there's some teams that look bad. Like my Patriots, we did not look good. We didn't do a lot of things well. There was some bright spots there, like Kayshon Boutte and the way that they played in the second quarter. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of bright spots for this team. So a lot of growing up to do. So I think the only teams that should really panic is maybe there's 3. There's the Dolphins, there's the Panthers, and there's the Giants. Those 3 teams definitely looked like the worst teams in the NFL this past weekend, so I would probably panic if I was fans of those teams. But still, like I said, it's week 1. Things can change. It's a 17-game season, 18-week season, so a lot of football to be played. A lot of things will be hashed out in the next 2 to 3 months, so do not panic over week 1. All right, let's go ahead and move to my second topic of the day, and we're going to break down 3 games in college football, 3 of the biggest games in college football, and this is actually the biggest game. This is where College Game Day's at. This is going to be the primetime game on ABC, and that is number 6 Georgia and number 15 Tennessee, and Georgia is currently a 3.5-point favorite in this game. Now, there's some questions I have going into this game because Georgia has played 2 cupcakes in Austin Peay and Marshall their first week, and they've kind of just sputtered around because they knew that they were going to win those games. There was no question that they would lose. There was no question that they would be threatened in any way throughout those games. So they kind of just sputtered around, played around, did not look good in either one of those games. So my question is, how good is Georgia? How good is Gunnar Stockton at quarterback? He's only actually made 4 starts now, or 3 starts because he didn't start in the SEC championship game. He came in after Carson Beck got injured. So he's only made 3 starts, 1 against Notre Dame in the playoff last year and then the 2 this year. So outside of the Notre Dame game, he really hasn't made a meaningful start. He hasn't really made a road start because it was a neutral site last year and it was in New Orleans, so it's actually a lot closer. There's a lot more Dog fans there than there were Notre Dame fans. And then the 2 games at home. So first official real road start for Gunnar Stockton in this game at Tennessee. That's a tough environment. Neyland Stadium is a tough environment. They're going to get after you, and they have belief now. And that is my second question for this game is Joey Aguilar and this Tennessee offense for real? Because we know Josh Heupel can coach up offense. We know he can coach up teams that could score, whether it's through the air or last year they ran the ball really well with Dylan Sampson. So we know that they're going to score and they're going to find ways to make plays on offense. Is Joey Aguilar the real deal? Because you let Nico Iamaleava walk after the whole situation with him and his dad, and they wanted more money and they wanted change to the offense. You let him walk. You basically do a trade because he goes to UCLA, and then you get the guy who transferred to UCLA in Joey Aguilar, and now he's your quarterback. And through the first 2 weeks, he looked great against Syracuse. Last weekend, they didn't play anyone of note, so it's not really much to talk about. But on the road at Syracuse, he looked really good, was really poised, made some plays with his legs, made some plays with his arm as well. So really good signs, and really liked what I saw from Joey Aguilar in that week 1 game. But this is a whole nother beast. This is a whole nother level. This is Georgia. That's that Georgia defense. Georgia has a bunch of studs on defense like they always do. Kirby Smart's going to coach up that defense. Can Joey Aguilar and this Tennessee team get some sort of rhythm in this game on offense? That is a huge question mark for me. And then finally, the last biggest question for me in this game is, can Tennessee finally get over the hump against Georgia? They haven't beat Georgia since 2015, so it's 10 years since they've beaten Georgia. And there's been a lot of hype for this game the last probably 4 or 5 years, about 3-4 years, and Georgia shuts down that hype pretty quickly. There was the year that Tennessee was coming off of the win against Alabama and was the number 1 team in the country. They go into Georgia and get absolutely hammered by Georgia that game, and were pushed around. They've been pushed around by Georgia. They've been out physical by Georgia. They haven't been on the same playing field as Georgia, at least physically, recently. Can that change Saturday night? Can that change Saturday night? Can Tennessee flip the script on Georgia a little bit? That is probably the biggest question mark of the 3, is because the pressure is still on Georgia because they're the national title contender. They're the reigning SEC champion. They're the ones with the high expectations. But if you're Tennessee and you want to show the nation that you're for real again, you need to go out there and you need to get this win, and you need to make a statement on Saturday against this Georgia Bulldogs team. So those are my biggest question marks going into the game. My pick for this game, I'm actually going to roll with Georgia, and I think they're going to win. I think they're going to cover in Tennessee. I know that they've sputtered around in their first 2 weeks. I've seen them do that multiple times. We saw what they did a couple years ago against Missouri, where they sputtered around that whole game, but still won, then turned around the next week and hammered Arkansas. So this is what Georgia kind of does. They kind of feel out the first couple of weeks because they know most likely that they're going to win. Sometimes they play around a little too much and have to kind of scramble a little bit just to get the win. But either way, I still think Georgia's the better team. That defense, Kirby Smart. I still don't think Tennessee is quite up to snuff to beat Georgia in this game. So give me Georgia to win. Give me Georgia to cover. Georgia -3.5 is the play there. And then give me 1 second here. We're going to move. Actually, we're going to stay in the SEC in a game that's lost a little bit of its luster because of what happened last weekend. But that's going to be Florida at LSU, and LSU is currently a 7.5 point favorite in this game. And the biggest question mark, and my first question for this game is, can Florida and DJ Lagway get back on track? Because we know that they just lost at home this past weekend to South Florida. DJ Lagway almost looks like he's regressed versus last year. He ended the last year on fire as one of the top quarterbacks in the country, in my opinion, the way he ended last year. First game, we don't really take much consideration. It was Long Island, FCS opponent. But now you play South Florida at home, and he was not good. He was inaccurate. He was indecisive. He was not good in that game. Does that continue? Because that continues on the road in Death Valley against LSU. I promise you, with Blake Baker in that defense for LSU, they will make plays and they will make him pay. So DJ Lagway and this Florida team has to bounce back in a big way to have a chance in this game, because you're on the road, your backs are against the wall. The rest of their schedule is brutal. They play LSU this week, then they go to Miami next week. Then in the next 5 games, they also have Texas at home. They go to Texas A&M. So this team could be staring at a 1-4 start if they don't get back on track, and that would probably be Billy Napier would probably be out the door if that was the case, and that would be a nightmare scenario if you're Florida, and all that progress you made at the end of last year would be out the window. So huge weekend for Florida, huge weekend for DJ Lagway and Billy Napier. Can they get back on track? But looking at the LSU side, how good is this LSU offense? Because we've seen the defense play great against Clemson, but how good is Clemson? Clemson nearly lost to Troy this past weekend and was down 16-0 at home against Troy. So how good is this LSU offense? How good was that win against Clemson? Because the defense looks really good under Blake Baker for LSU. He's really turned that team around. He's really made defense the focus again at LSU, which is kind of outside of the Burrow year, what they hung their hat on under Nick Saban, and the years that they contended for a title and won a title under Les Miles. They hung their hat on the defensive side. So Looks like LSU is getting back to those ways, but how good is the offense? How good is this offense behind Garrett Nussmeier? Can they run the ball effectively? Can they get rhythm in the passing game? That is a huge question mark as well, because this Florida defense is pretty solid. Now, they only gave up 18 points against South Florida, and that should have been more than enough to get the victory for Florida to give up only 18 points to a South Florida team, but obviously it wasn't. So, but this defense still played well. Yes, they did get gashed on plays by USF's quarterback running the ball. That's not going to be a problem. Garrett Nussmeier is not a mobile quarterback. He is definitely more of a pocket quarterback, so you don't have to worry about that. So can this LSU team get some rhythm on offense? They haven't had a ton of rhythm on offense. They kind of sputtered around last week against Louisiana Tech. And we're not sure how good Clemson was. So that win, although I thought it was a big win at the time, but maybe it's not as big of a win coming off of how Clemson has looked in week 2. With all that being said, I think things are getting weird at Florida. I don't know if I trust Billy Napier and him to right the ship right now. I know he did it last year, but there was kind of a different circumstance. It was home games versus road games, and not a lot of people knew what to expect in DJ Lagway. Now there's film out on DJ Lagway, so you can get kind of a read on him and how he plays. So I think LSU wins. I think LSU covers. Give me LSU -7.5. They win, they cover, and things get really weird for Florida and Billy Napier down in Gainesville. Final game I want to break down, and this is going to be an SEC independent matchup, and that is number 16 Texas A&M and number 8 Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame has only played one game. They had a bye after playing Miami. They looked good coming back against Miami. It wasn't a great effort early on, but I liked what I saw from CJ Carr. What I need to see more from this Notre Dame team is running the football. Your best asset is Jeremiah Love. I still contend he is the best running back in the country. You need to run him more early and often and establish that running game. And that's what this game is going to be about. Both these teams like to run the football with their running backs and with their quarterbacks, especially Texas A&M with Marcel Reese. So which team can establish the run game and control the game? That's a huge question mark in this game. And with Texas A&M, can you finally win a big game? They won a big game about 4 years ago when they beat Alabama at home. And since then, they've lost these games. They opened up against Notre Dame last year, and Notre Dame went in there and handled them. Now you're going into Notre Dame's place. Notre Dame is 0-1, so they can't afford to fall in 0-2 because that would, especially after coming off of a national championship appearance, that would be reckless for this Notre Dame team. So you can't fall to 0-2 if you're Notre Dame. So with that being said, can A&M go in there and get the upset? Because this is a game that A&M is always hyped about. People talk, oh, A&M could be a team to do this. A&M could be a team to do that. And then they don't win this game. They fall on their face. They didn't look good against Texas last year. They didn't look good against Notre Dame last year. Do they not look good against Notre Dame against this year? Is it the same old Texas A&M, or is it different now under their new head coach in his second year? Is it different now for this Texas A&M team? That is a huge question mark for me. And then final question I have is CJ Carr. CJ Carr looked good in the second half, actually for most of the game against Miami. Now Miami's defense looks improved, but I'm still not sure how much improved they are. I mean, a jury is still out a little bit on Miami's defense, but CJ Carr looked really good. And if this Notre Dame offense can have a passing threat, that should open up more opportunities for Jeremiah Love to feast in the running game. So that could be a huge thing for this offense and for this Notre Dame team. So a big question mark, how good is CJ Carr? Because this Texas A&M defense will get after you. They'll get after you. They'll hit you. They'll be physical. They're going to come out and play physical and play hard. So CJ Carr is going to have to be on his A game. So those are my 3 question marks going into this game. Ultimately, I think Notre Dame wins. I think Notre Dame covers. I just don't like Texas A&M in these spots. They don't seem to show up in these spots. I know it's a different coach. I know it's a different situation there, but I still just don't love them in these spots. Notre Dame cannot fall to 0-2, so there will be a sense of urgency for this Notre Dame team in this game because they don't have a conference this year. They don't ever have a conference. They're still independent, so they can be like, okay, we're 0-2 in non-conference, but we can still win the conference, get into the playoff. No, you can't do that. You're not in a conference yet. So Notre Dame cannot afford to fall to 0-2 in the season. So I think they win. I think they cover. Notre Dame -6.5 is the play there for me. And then finally, let's go ahead and move on to Kody's covers and my top 3 picks for the weekend. Oh, just having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Give me 1 second here. All right. So I'm only going to pick 3 college football games because I just broke down 3, so we're not going to do a full 5 slate on the college football side. But I will give you my week 2 Cody's covers, and there'll be 5 games covered on this Cody's covers for week 2 in the NFL. But let's start off in college football. And an underrated game that I think is not getting enough public attention, but I think could be one of the sneaky best games of the weekend. That is number 12 Clemson at Georgia Tech. And this was my ACC championship game matchup prediction going into the season. I like what I see from Georgia Tech. I like what I see from Brent Key. I like what I see from Haynes King. They went on the road, kind of sputtered a little bit against Colorado, but still got the victory, still covered, still a good win. It's a road victory. It's a good way to start the season. You're Georgia Tech, not Georgia, so you don't have to go in there and hammer them. So I like what this Georgia Tech team is doing. And then on the flip side, yes, Clemson was my national championship pick going into the season, but they have looked nothing like what I thought they would. Their offense is one-dimensional, and they're making Cade Klubnik do way too much. Cade Klubnik is a good quarterback, but he's not a quarterback that can carry you on his back. He needs help from the run game, and they're not getting that right now. And their defense. Their defense got pushed around by LSU a little bit, and they got pushed around a little bit in the first half by Troy. So huge question marks for this Clemson team going into this game. Yes, it's not the toughest environment at Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech, I feel like that fan base and that program feels like could be their year to make some noise, and they see maybe a little bit of blood in the water with Clemson. So Clemson is a 3.5-point favorite in this game. I don't like that at all. I think Georgia Tech covers. I think I would even consider Georgia Tech to win the game outright and sprinkle some money line. So give me Georgia Tech plus 3.5 in this game. Next, we have a Big Ten SEC matchup, and that is Wisconsin at number 19 Alabama. And Alabama is a 21.5-point favorite in this game. I'm sorry. I know Wisconsin hasn't looked great in their first 2 games against Miami of Ohio, and I don't remember who they played last week, but it wasn't a great opponent. But Alabama is definitely not a good enough team to be favored by 21.5 against any Power 4 team at this point, especially a Power 4 team like Wisconsin, who still has a lot of good players on that roster. So I think Wisconsin covers this game. I think Alabama probably wins outright, and you could probably see the backdoor cover. Maybe Alabama gets up early and Wisconsin comes back a little bit. But I think Wisconsin covers this game. So give me Wisconsin plus 21.5 in this game. Finally, we're going to go back to the well, and we have South Florida, number 18 South Florida. They finally get ranked after that win on the road against Florida at number 5 Miami, and there's that number again. South Florida is is currently a 17.5-point underdog. Miami's a 17.5-point favorite. I love South Florida to cover. Now, I don't think they win this game. I think kind of the magic turns out a little big, especially on the road against Miami. I think Miami's a different animal versus Florida, and they're a little further ahead versus Florida. But I still think they cover. I still think they're a good enough team to stick around, to hang around and cover. So give me South Florida plus 17.5 to cover again. I don't think they get the outright win this weekend, though. And let's go ahead and finish off the show. I'm going to give you my top 5 NFL picks. We're going to start with the game in the NFC, and this is the Falcons at the Vikings, and the Vikings are currently a 3.5-point favorite here. This is another game. J.J. McCarthy playing another quarterback from his draft class. Just played Caleb Williams on Monday night. Now he's playing Michael Penix Jr. This Vikings defense is going to get after you. They got after Caleb. They got after that team. They got after that Bears team on offense. They're going to get after this Falcons team on offense as well. I just don't trust the Falcons. I like what I saw from Michael Penix in that first week in that offense. And Bijan Robinson looks like an absolute stud, like we always thought he would. But I don't trust them in games. I don't trust them to finish games. I don't trust them to win big games. So I think the Vikings win. It's their home opener. I think they cover. So give me the Vikings minus 3.5. I know it's a short week for them, but I still think they win and cover. Vikings minus 3.5 is a play there. We're going to stay in the NFC North, and we have the Bears at the Lions. And I've been back and forth about this. The Lions are a 5.5-point favorite. Neither one of these teams wanted to fall at 0-2. Neither one of these teams could really afford to fall at 0-2. But one of these teams, unfortunately, will fall to 0-2. It's in Detroit. What kind of pride does that roster have? They've won the division the last 2 years. Still a lot of veterans, a lot of good players on that roster. 5.5 points is not a lot of points. And then there's the Ben Johnson dynamic. Does that favor the Bears, or does that favor the Lions? Because they know Ben Johnson's tendencies. They know what kind of plays he likes to call. But he was calling them for Jared Goff. He wasn't calling them for Caleb Williams, who's a totally different quarterback. So does Ben Johnson kind of change up his game a little bit, or does he kind of keep it the same like he did on Monday night? And that, I think, would play right into the hands of the Lions. I think Ben Johnson's kind of a stubborn guy. I think he kind of keeps it the same. So I'll play right in the hands of the Lions. I like the Lions to win. I like the Lions to cover. So give me the Lions minus 5.5 to get back on track after a rough week 1 game against the Packers on the road. Let's move over to the AFC, and we have the Broncos at the Colts, and currently the Broncos are a 1.5-point favorite in this game. Colts look really good on Sunday, but they played the Dolphins, who might be the worst team in the league, and a team that has quit on their coach, it looks like. So don't know what to take, how much stock to put in that Colts win, even though Daniel Jones may have had one of his better games as a pro in that game. Either way, this Broncos defense is ferocious. They're going to get after you. So I still like this Broncos defense to go in there and rattle Daniel Jones, which we've seen throughout his career is not hard to do. So I think that's what wins the day for the Broncos is their defense. So I think the Broncos go in there. I think they win. I think they cover. Give me the Broncos -1.5 in the game. And then the biggest game of the weekend is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Eagles are actually a 1.5-point favorite on the road in Arrowhead against the Chiefs. I didn't love what I saw from the Eagles. Now, they will get Jalen Carter back because he did not get suspended. He just got fined. So that will be a big difference there. The offense was okay. It was a lot of the Jalen Hurts running show. I still don't think he sees the field great throwing the ball. So I still think he's a question mark throwing the ball from the pocket, but he can make plays with his legs. But I think the Chiefs defense is better than the Cowboys defense. So they'll be able to slow him down a little bit. I think the Chiefs, it's more about pride in that locker room. They don't want to fall to 0-2. They know that they're playing the team that just embarrassed them in the Super Bowl last year. So I think the Chiefs bounce back and get a victory and move to 1-1 on the season. So give me the Chiefs +1.5, and I think they win the game outright. So money line again for the Chiefs would actually be a nice bet as well. Finally, one of the Monday night games. There's actually 2 Monday night games this week, but I'm only picking one of them, and that is the Buccaneers at the Texans. And the Texans are currently a 2.5-point favorite in this game. Listen, I did not like what I saw from the Texans on the road against the Rams. Now, the Rams are a good team, but that was kind of a sloppy game all around. CJ Stroud was sloppy and he was inaccurate and inefficient throughout the game and really just sloppy in that game. Their defense played pretty well, but the offense for the Rams wasn't anything to speak about, anything to write home about in that game. So I don't really know what to take away from that game. It was a really sloppy game between the Rams and the Texans. Don't really like what I saw from either one of those teams. And the Buccaneers, Emeka Egbuka in his rookie debut has 2 touchdowns. You know you're going to get contributions from Mike Evans. Bucky Irving's going to do his thing. Baker Mayfield's going to do his thing. I just think this offense has so much firepower. And the defense will get better and better throughout the weeks. I don't know about this Texans team. I think there's question marks about them. I think we all thought and assumed they'd win that division, but maybe with what the Colts look like, and not really sure about the Jaguars because they played the Panthers, but maybe it's going to be a little bit tougher for the Texans this year. I like the Buccaneers. I think they're a sneaky Super Bowl contender in the NFC as well. So give me the Buccaneers to go in to Houston and get a victory. So that means they obviously cover. So the Buccaneers +2.5 is the play for me there. So that was Kody's covers, both in college football and in the NFL, and that has been my show today. Before I go, just want to remind you, as always, if you like the video version of this podcast, please like and subscribe down here. Leave me some of your picks. I'd love to see some of your picks as well. However, if you prefer the video version, or if you prefer the audio version of this show, please go like and subscribe on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. With all that being said, have a great day, and thank you for watching and listening.